Cat. He's a cutie pie. So I don't think that Jordan Peterson is actually dead, but I don't know he's not. Schrodinger's lobster. Anyway, an esteemed friend and colleague of mine, Dr. Jordan Peterson, has not personally uploaded anything to his YouTube channel in several months now. To my knowledge, he's not made any public appearances or put out any work at all. Instead, his daughter MIKHAILA has uploaded this video, Peterson Family Update. And that was back on February 7th. In the past, I've deliberately avoided talking about Jordan Peterson's family when I've been criticizing him. But today, I think we need to change that. This has been a long time coming. Now, before we address the family update, I need to give a little bit of background. Jordan Peterson is, I think it's very fair to say, a bit of a hypochondriac. In the past, he's spoken about having horrible health problems, and I am sympathetic to that. However, this Joe Rogan interview was a little suspect to me. When Rogan asked Peterson about his health, Peterson only gave a vague explanation, citing an autoimmune disorder.
What kind of an illness?
It looks like an autoimmune disorder.
Do you think this is because of stress?
No, I don't.
You don't think it's connected at all?
Well, yeah, I think it probably made it worse. But no, it's something that I've battled with for a long time. And it's something that really, both my wife and I have autoimmune illness. And my daughter got...
What autoimmune illness?
Don't know exactly what it is.
Now, as someone as an autoimmune disorder myself, it's a little strange to me he didn't give a more specific answer. Now, you might be thinking, he didn't want to share the specifics, and that's perfectly valid. But, he did share all these other details about his health and what he's been through. Little weird you wouldn't just give a straight, this is what I'm diagnosed with. Being vague like that, aside from being a characteristic trait of Jordan Peterson, it kind of suggests you haven't really seen a doctor. Now, it is possible that Jordan Peterson has had symptoms of an autoimmune disorder without a clear-cut diagnosis. That's not super common, but it does happen. But the way he responded when Rogan asked him, I don't know, it felt a little off to me. But ultimately, it's not really relevant. Whatever symptoms he may have had, they don't really matter. What is important is that he claimed he had a successful treatment. Beef.
I don't know what it is.
Have you
In my
adjusted
daughter,
your
it
diet?
manifests. Yes, that's what's fixed it.
What fixed it?
Oh, all I eat is meat and greens. That's it. No juice, no vegetables, no carbohydrates. Meat, greens. That's it.
I think it's pretty clear to everyone, even his fans, that eating just a pure meat diet is a bad idea. You need vitamin C, my friends. Just a little bit. Putting aside the potential for a placebo effect, and assuming that this dietary change really did help him, it would seem kind of likely that something he was regularly consuming before he made the switch to an all-beef diet was causing his issues, and that by switching to eating one solitary thing, he happened to cut that out. When a food allergy or intolerance is suspected, patients are encouraged to go on an elimination diet. This is where you eat a small variety of really basic foods that you can handle, and one by one you add another. Now, by doing this method helps you notice any problem foods that you may have so you can avoid them. It's the science. Had to go through it myself. It's the proper method. Peterson, to my knowledge, didn't do that. Doesn't mention it here. To my knowledge, doesn't mention it anywhere else. Makes me a little suspicious he ever actually sought treatment in the first place. Or maybe if he did seek treatment, he didn't actually listen to the doctors. Somehow, that would not surprise me one bit. But no, in fact, he explained that this idea of having an all-beef diet came from his daughter, MIKHAILA. MIKHAILA used to have a blog talking about her experiences with her health and an all-meat diet. Going to this page now redirects to a different page, one for a subscription service called the Line Club that totally doesn't look like a scam in any way. Oh, look at that, it's only $10 though. Yeah, that's much better than the Charisma on Command subscription. But that's okay, at any rate, the older version of this is saved on the Wayback Machine. I compulsively save everything these people post. This blog details the health problems she had at a young age, the treatment she was given, and her attempts at self-treatments later in her life. She claims that by following this diet, it's cured her of several issues, including arthritis and depression. September 2015. I went on an elimination diet. I went on it to see if I could control my arthritic symptoms. I could. 3 weeks into the diet, my arthritis and skin issues went away. This was unheard of. I don't have the type of arthritis that goes away. 3 months later, my depression disappeared. My arthritis ate my hip and my ankle, but I haven't experienced anything more debilitating than depression. A month after that, my fatigue lifted. Everything wrong with me was diet-related. Arthritis, depression, anxiety, lower back pain, chronic fatigue, brain fog, itchy skin, acne, tiny blisters on my knuckles, floaters, mouth ulcers, twitching at night, night sweats, tooth sensitivity, and the list goes on, but everything was diet related. Every single thing wrong with me was fixable. Now, I should note that in this blog, MIKHAILA does not explicitly encourage anyone to try her diet, and she doesn't explicitly say it is a replacement for proper medical treatment, but she does seem to heavily suggest that you try it. She presents it in a way that's something of a guideline for people with digestive issues to follow, modeled after her own experiences, and she heavily suggests that you try it, especially if you have one of anything on this list of symptoms. Now, I don't actually know MIKHAILA and her life. I have my doubts, but it is entirely possible that this blog post is entirely factual and representative of her experiences. So I won't go through all of it and cast too much doubt on it. But I have something of an obligation here. I am celiacattack. This blog encourages you to cut out gluten, all of it. She even lists that gluten is hidden in soy sauce, Twizzlers, malt vinegar. Later down in the blog, she also says, I do not recommend reintroducing dairy and gluten ever, but do so if need be. Which is, okay, fine. We know most people don't really need to cut out gluten, but like personally, you know, if you want to try it, I say go for it. You know, maybe see how I live. You know what I mean? But in this blog, she provides a list of foods that she has no trouble eating. Yeah, a bunch of meats, a few veggies, and if we scroll down at the bottom here, we may find bourbon and American whiskey labeled straight whiskey. If you don't know, whiskey is usually made from wheat, barley, and rye, the very same grains that the gluten protein comes from. Bourbon has to be 51% corn, but it usually contains wheat, barley, or rye ingredients filling in that 49%. Now, there are some people out there that try to claim that the distillation process removes the gluten protein. No, those people are wrong. They don't know what they're talking about. Take it from me. It's not true. I think he wants out of the room. You cannot fully remove gluten. There's always going to be a little bit left. So according to her own blog, she has not fully cut out gluten herself. I've never seen anyone mention this before. This seems like a really simple thing, but I mean, I guess the majority of people in the world don't care about gluten, and I'm part of that tiny fraction of a percent that has to care. So I guess it's appropriate for me to be the one to do it. You know, having an error like this kind of makes me think MIKHAILA has no idea what she's talking about. She doesn't have any actual understanding of food and nutrition. She doesn't have a degree in this, by the way. I mean, neither do I, but I'm required to know this stuff just to live. Anyway, this brings us to the video.
Hi everyone. It's been months since we've given an update on Jordan or my family's health, and it's time for one, so here it is. The last year has been extremely difficult for our family. Dad was put on a low dose of a benzodiazepine a few years ago for anxiety following an extremely severe autoimmune reaction to food. He took the medication as prescribed. Last April, when my mom was diagnosed with terminal cancer, the dose of the medication was increased. It became apparent that he was suffering from both a physical dependency and a paradoxical reaction to the medication. A paradoxical reaction means the drugs do the opposite of what they're supposed to. These reactions are rare but not unheard of. For the last 8 months, he's been in unbearable discomfort from this drug, made worse when trying to remove it because of the addition of withdrawal symptoms stemming from physical dependence. He experienced terrible akathisia, which is a condition where the person feels an incredible, endless, irresistible restlessness bordering on panic and an inability to sit still. The reaction made him suicidal. After several failed treatment attempts in North American hospitals, including attempts at tapering and micro-tapering, we had to seek an emergency medical benzodiazepine detox, which we were only able to find in Russia. It was incredibly grueling and was further complicated by severe pneumonia, which we've been told he developed in one of the previous hospitals. He's had to spend 4 weeks in the ICU in terrible shape, but with the help of some extremely competent and courageous doctors, he survived. The decision to bring him to Russia was made in extreme desperation when we couldn't find any better option. The uncertainty around his recovery has been one of the most difficult and scary experiences we've ever had. So, finally, Dad is on the mend, even though there's a lot of physiological damage that he needs to recover from. He's improving and is off of the horrible medication. His sense of humor is back. He's smiling again for the first time in months, but he still has a long way to go to recover fully. It appears that we're going to get through this by the skin of our teeth. So let me make a couple of things clear. Neither our family nor the doctors here believe that this is a case of psychological addiction. Benzodiazepine physical dependence due to brain changes can occur in a matter of weeks. It can be made even worse by paradoxical reactions that are difficult to diagnose and can be extremely dangerous. We've been told and hope that Dad will recover fully, but it will take time and he still has a ways to go. We're extremely lucky and grateful that he's alive. The next update will come from him directly. Thanks again for all the support.
So, there is no such thing as an emergency medical benzodiazepine detox. I tried doing research into this. I don't even know how she found a place in Russia that alleges to do this. This is some weird dark web stuff. This video doesn't include it, but a National Post article she apparently gave a script to does. Apparently as part of this detox, Jordan Peterson was put into a medically induced coma for 8 days. Apparently, he also suffered neurological damage. I think it probably goes without saying, and all of you watching this probably already know this, but going into a medically induced coma is not how you treat addiction or withdrawal. The proper treatment for coming off of benzos takes time. Doing some research, it can take anywhere from several months up to a year. I've been through opioid withdrawal. Going through benzo withdrawal sounds absolutely horrible.
Because my daughter has a blog too called Don't Eat That, and my daughter had a terrible autoimmune disorder. It was awful. I detailed that out in chapter 12. She had 38 affected joints, and she had her hip and her ankle replaced when she was 16.
Jesus.
So she walked around on 2 broken legs for a year in excruciating pain. She was on extremely high doses of opiates. And so she was addicted to opiates, which she just, once she had her surgery, she just went off them cold turkey and suffered through the withdrawal for 2 months.
So this brings me to a kind of an important point here. Now, it's possible she's under stress and didn't get some parts of this right. It's possible I don't know everything going on, but something doesn't seem right, and I feel like I need to point it out.
Last year has been extremely difficult for our family.
The last year.
For the last 8 months, he's been in
8 months.
after several failed treatment attempts in North American hospitals, including attempts at tapering and micro-tapering. We had to seek an emergency medical benzodiazepine detox.
I don't think they went through with the full treatment. Several attempts at coming off of it in 8 months, but the full treatment can take up to a year. It sounds like they didn't take them seriously. And I'm willing to bet probably a little bit of arrogance on the parts of the family involved here. Now, let me read this bit to you from the National Post article. This is from MIKHAILA. In early January, my dad, my husband, my daughter, and I flew to Russia. To make matters worse, he was diagnosed with a fever and pneumonia in both lungs upon arrival. He was put into an induced coma for 8 days and had the most horrific withdrawal I've ever read or heard about. He almost died from what the medical system did to him in the West. The doctors here aren't influenced by pharmaceutical companies, don't believe in treating symptoms caused by medications by adding more medications, and have the guts to medically detox someone from benzodiazepines. Have the guts? What? So the reason why the doctors and hospitals in North America wouldn't force Jordan Peterson into a coma to detox him is because that's not the right treatment. Proper treatment takes time, tapering off into smaller doses, and using other medications to treat the symptoms of withdrawal. You know, so you don't suffer neurological damage. You don't need to be a doctor to understand this. So I don't know what's going on behind the scenes here, but it seems likely to me that this decision was made by MIKHAILA. You know, Jordan Peterson frequently says if you're not sure why someone is doing something, you look at the outcome and infer the motivation from that. So this really leaves one unanswered question. MIKHAILA, are you trying to kill your father? He looks a little washed out on the corner here, but it's okay. He's still a cute cat. So all of this video I filmed a week and a half, 2 weeks ago. Everything has fallen apart pretty quickly since then. So I'm just gonna put this out. Anyway, the point here is not to make fun of Jordan Peterson or MIKHAILA. The point is just that, you know, if you have an addiction problem, don't go to Russia. You can get proper treatment. You don't need Russia. You don't need to be put into a coma for that. Now, this may not be a great time to be going to the hospital for this, but I digress. We're going to thank the Patreon backers. I don't have a funny skit to do, but I'm just going to thank you anyway. A special thanks to Critch, Elsie Hupp, Jerry Polamo, I'm sorry, Susie M, and Uncle Quail. Now, on the one hand, I kind of want to make fun of their diet and like everything else, but on the other, they may be completely honest about everything. I haven't eaten beef in years. Ooh, about 3 years now, actually. Granted, I have Crohn's disease, and red meat is not so good. Not so good on the colon. How funny would it be if, like, it turns out this whole family has celiac disease? And like that extremely severe autoimmune reaction you had is from having gluten. What? Oh, the irony. You know, not to like provide an armchair doctor diagnosis here, but you know, you Google celiac disease arthritis, and the first thing that comes up, sometimes celiac disease can be misdiagnosed as arthritis. And in that Joe Rogan video we shared earlier, there's a clip of Jordan Peterson saying that MIKHAILA didn't have the markers for arthritis.
What is this autoimmune disease?
Well, she had, her diagnosis was rheumatoid arthritis.
Right.
But she didn't have the blood markers for it. But she had all the other symptoms.
She said it also cured her depression, which I know firsthand is a thing that can come with it. And again, you know, I don't know your life, but in her blog here, it says she stopped eating gluten thinking it might be celiac related, but she never had stomach pain. Well, you don't need to have stomach pain to have celiac disease. I had symptoms of celiac disease for, 10 plus years before getting diagnosed. Never had stomach pain. Not till the end of it anyway. Of course, she doesn't say anything about getting tested for celiac disease, and that's kind of the big thing I would think to look for. The fact that there's like no mention of that is kind of suspect. And again, I'm not making no diagnosis here, but when you Google MIKHAILA Peterson celiac disease, a few things come up. One of which that caught my eye here is a podcast, The Adventures of Kettle Woman. I don't care. Point is, Control F for celiac disease. We find something a little interesting. MIKHAILA says, yeah, first I was looking up skin disorders to try and see what was going on with my skin, and I came across it's called dermatitis herpetiformis, and it's itchy blistering rash you can get when you have celiac disease. So I did genetic testing. It was like I came up with the gene, and in order to be tested in the medical community for celiac disease, they do biopsies. And I was like, well, I'll just... And I guess they cut in. That's because the blood test isn't reliable, is it? Well, no. The blood test for the gene is so you can rule it out, but you can't really say somebody has it. I've been through this myself. This is true. And I thought, Well, I don't want the biopsies have a very high false negative rate because you have to actually biopsy a sample that is diseased. And I was like, I don't want to do a bunch of biopsies. I'll just out the gluten and maybe all my problems will go away. This was in 2015 and maybe it helped a little bit, but not really. And then, yeah, I went on an elimination diet. So it wasn't actually a keto diet. It was just like root vegetables without potatoes because I cut out nightshades. Basically, I just cut out blah, blah, blah. Blah, blah, blah. But you and me, we know she didn't fully cut out gluten because she's still consuming whiskey. So you've got all these symptoms. You test positive for the celiac gene, but you don't want to take a biopsy and you're still consuming a little bit of gluten in the form of whiskey? No. Look, I'm not here to diagnose anything. There's enough, pieces here to come to. The evidence suggests you might have celiac disease. It does suggest it. Now, the test that they do for a biopsy is they give you like these little gluten pills and you got to take it like every so often for a month or so. And then they go in, they go up your butt, they take a little piece out from your small intestines and then they run that back. And that's the test for it. Now, in summary, this is not me trying to make fun of her. This is me pointing out there is a flaw in this person's thought process. This person does not understand health. And frankly, if Jordan Peterson dies, I would blame it on her. How's that for a hot take, huh? So in summary, no, don't listen to MIKHAILA. Don't listen to Jordan Peterson.